Alright, hi. So, I have an experiment I would like to conduct. I am going to try to make you think I'm crazy. like, like bonkers. Because I have a theory, you know, not even a theory. I have some knowings about what's going on here, you know, this thing that's happening right now. And in these knowings, I want to put forth some positions that I would like to take. So in these knowings, in my trying to convince you that I am fucking batshit crazy, I give to you my first argument: spooky action at a distance. This is a term Einstein coined. Einstein coined this term when he was describing what happens in quantum physics when some quantum physicists were coming up the calculations they were about, you know, what's happening at the quantum level, the subatomic level, because they disturbed his belief structure. Because what the findings of what quantum physics said about the nature of reality, he's like, I don't like that. That's kind of spooky action at a distance. That can't be real. That can't, I mean, right? That can't be real. That can't be real, right? I don't know. I think it's pretty real. And here's why. I give you the first exhibit. Exhibit A. Exhibit 1. For spooky action at a distance. The original quantum physics experiment, the double-slit experiment. Check it out. This is crazy shit.
Let's go quantum. An electron is a tiny, tiny bit of matter, like a tiny marble. Let's fire a stream through one slit. It behaves just like the marble, a single band. So, if we shoot these tiny bits through two slits, we should get, like the marbles, two bands. What? An interference pattern. We fired electrons, tiny bits of matter through. But we get a pattern like waves, not like little marbles. How? How could pieces of matter create an interference pattern like a wave? It doesn't make sense. But physicists are clever. They thought, maybe those little balls are bouncing off each other and creating that pattern. So, they decide to shoot electrons through one at a time. There is no way they could interfere with each other. But after an hour of this, the same interference pattern is seen to emerge. The conclusion is inescapable. The single electron leaves as a particle, becomes a wave of potentials, goes through both slits, and interferes with itself to hit the wall like a particle. But mathematically, it's even stranger. It goes through both slits, and it goes through neither. And it goes through just one, and it goes through just the other. All of these possibilities are in superposition with each other. Physicists were completely baffled by this. So they decided to peek and see which slit it actually goes through. They put a measuring device by one slit to see which one it went through and let it fly. But the quantum world is far more mysterious than they could have imagined. When they observed, the electron went back to behaving like a little marble. It produced a pattern of two bands, not an interference pattern of many. The very act of measuring or observing which slit it went through meant it only went through one, not both. The electron decided to act differently, as though it was aware it was being watched.
Alright, so that experiment alone boggles the mind. Everything I've been told about reality is wrong just by that experiment. Just by that experiment. So you're saying the fact that I am watching shit means that it will behave in a certain way. If I wasn't watching shit, then it would be pretty much everywhere and doing things all at once. Like Schrodinger's cat. Like the cat is alive and dead at the same time until you observe what's going on. Once you observe what's going on, then you will collapse the wave function into a reality, being the cat's either alive or dead. That's insane. So it would go through, if there wasn't a conscious human being or a conscious entity, an entity that understands it. So I think if there was a dog in the room, I don't know. I haven't done this experiment. I don't have, don't have the setup to conduct my own double-slit experiment. But if there was a dog in the room, I think it would still act in a superposition manner because it's just existence. That's just existence. See, but the reason you are made in God's image, as the Bible speaks it, I would say, is because you are conscious of existence. Your existence aware of itself, and when you, existence, decide to observe existence, existence falls in line with your observation because you are but existence. So if existence thinks existence is doing something, existence is doing that, whatever that existence thinks it's doing. You get it, existence? Moving on. For my next bit of evidence to prove or to illustrate the fact that I'm crazy and existence is existence and you are existence and I'm existence and we all share an existence, I give you Dr. Emoto's water crystal. So that first bit of evidence with the double-slit experiment, that was showing you electrons or photons, packets of light, but still matter as far as we know matter to be. That's like as borderline matter as you can get before it turns into not matter. Even though photons or electrons we would say is matter and energy, but so there's really a separate, no differentiation between the two. But I was gonna say with the double-slit experiment, other types of double-slit experiments have been conducted as well. I think it's De Broglie. I don't know. I can't pronounce his name. I'll have to get some links or something on that. But he did an experiment of the same kind, but with C16 fluorine molecules. C16 fluorine molecules, I'm talking about like molecules. This is matter. These are atoms configured in such a way to create a piece of matter as we have come to know matter, this stuff. I mean, all right, so if it happened with that, and so we know it goes up, so we know that on a quantum level, if you're keeping track here, on a quantum level, your quantum level, your existence, you're a bunch of atoms, you're a bunch of subatomic particles, all in a pattern, creating you. So quantum particles behave as a wave and particle simultaneously, superposition and positioned, essentially. All right, Dr. Emoto's water crystals. This is where we're talking about what you do as consciousness having an influence on, existence. Existence having an influence on existence. It only makes sense that existence would have an influence on existence. But for some reason, we think us, existence, doesn't have an influence on existence, other than, this kind of, influence. Like I move existence there. Existence used to be here, but now I'm moving it here. It's not exactly what I'm talking about. I am talking about moving things in a much more subtle way. These are why the ancients would call it, subtle energies. These subtle things that aren't so readily apparent, aren't as apparent as this. You and I get this. I mean, this is undeniable. But these energies, for some reason, seem to be deniable. Check it out.
The exhibit comes to us from Japan and Mr. Masuro Emoto. Mr. Emoto became terribly interested in the molecular structure of water and what affects it. Now, water is the most receptive of the 4 elements. Mr. Emoto thought perhaps it would respond to non-physical events. So he set up a series of studies, applied mental stimuli, and photographed it with a dark field microscope. This first picture is a picture of water from the Fujiwara Dam. And this picture is the same water after receiving a blessing from a Zen Buddhist monk. Now, in this next series of pictures, Mr. Emoto printed out words, taped them to bottles of distilled water, and left them out overnight. This first photograph is a picture of the pure distilled water, just the essence of itself. These subsequent photographs, as you can see, are each different. This is the chi of love. And we move along here to thank you. And you can see where he taped that to this bottle here. But if you read Japanese, you already knew that. Now, Mr. Emoto speaks of the thought or intent being the driving force in all of this. The science of how that actually affects the molecules is unknown, except to the water molecules, of course. And it's really fascinating when you keep in mind that 90% of our bodies are water.
Makes you wonder, doesn't it? If thoughts can do that to water, imagine what our thoughts can do to us.
That's one of the things I'm trying to talk about. What our thoughts can do to us. So you see, with Dr. Emoto's water crystals, what vibes you have direct impact on the external world around you. What is water? Water is pretty much life to us. You know, everything that's living has water intrinsically related to it in some way. I mean, so I have to give a disclaimer, I guess. I feel the need to, because people like to attack the messenger, right? So those first two clips that I showed you of Exhibit A, or Exhibit 1, Exhibit 2, Exhibit A, and Exhibit B, they are from a documentary called What the Beep Do We Know? Like, what the fuck do we know? What the hell do we know? It's a pretty badass documentary. You should check it out. Of course, the documentary has its own angles. It has its agenda, what it's trying to push and stuff like that, along the similar lines that I'm trying to push. But I don't have any backing. I don't want any backing. I'm not trying to get any backing. All I'm trying to do is give you some information you might find useful. I mean, I find it useful, you know, to know this stuff. But you know, if you don't want to, that's your prerogative. Do whatever you want to do. That's what you are. Existence. Do what you do. All right, so for the third one, it piggybacks off of the first two, obviously, because they're all pointing at the same thing: spooky action at a distance. So for Exhibit 3, Exhibit C, I have an experiment that I challenge you to do at home yourself. And it's really fucking easy, because do it while you're making dinner. This is how easy the experiment is. It's a rice experiment. You can do it with other things, but rice is a pretty common way to do this experiment. But in the same way that your thoughts and your vibes and your emotions affect water, in the second clip, Dr. Emoto's water crystals, he was taking pictures of pure water. Well, seeing as how everything's, you know, water has water influence in some way, what would happen if you give vibes to whatever water is in that object? Let's see. I mean, it's pretty fucking cool. The rice experiment.
Actually, maybe this should be called the consciousness experiment, because that's what this is about. Okay, so obviously these are just little glass jars with lids, all washed up. And then here is some cooked rice. Not much, because the rest of it is in my tummy. Now, this is going in here. 1 spoonful in there. There they go, 2 little glass containers of rice. Love and hate. So I'm going to take the love, we'll stick this one, so we'll stick it across the top, there like that, look. Love, hate. Every day for the next month I'm going to love this rice. Send it some love. Just think love. And with this rice, I'm going to think hate, horrid, hate it, evil rice. That's going to be the only difference between these two identical containers of rice, apart from the word and the intention. Day 3, fennel seed, still fine. The love rice, still completely fine. As is the hate rice. Nothing to report. No changes. Still no change. Day 4. See you tomorrow. Okay, so this is day 5. And I think you can see on the hate rice, blue mold. You can see that. It's started to mold. Day 5. Day 6, and you can see the mold growing there on the hate rice. Look at that. Day 7. Day 8. Day 9. The effects of thought on reality. The difference between these two pieces of rice is that one has got bad negative energy going to it and one's got love, good energy. The impact of consciousness on reality.
Do it yourself. Do that yourself. If you doubt it, if you doubt what you just saw, do that yourself. I challenge you. Seriously. Am I crazy? Am I crazy? Oh yeah, it gets better. It keeps going. Let's get deeper. See, so now we've seen subatomic molecules, and then we've seen more complex molecules, H2O, water, and now we've seen rice. What happens to a semi-living organism? I mean, it used to be living, not so living anymore. Now we can see how what kind of thoughts, what kind of vibes affect, the production of certain types of life. Hate vibes, mold thrives much better because it decays and changes that structure that was there, in my opinion. So let's see what happens when you give vibes to a living organism. What happens when you give vibes to, say, a plant? Do plants feel? Maybe I would say some vegetarians, vegans may not like to see what I'm about to show them, because I mean, there's some that might have an impression that they're saving the animals and from the pain, but I'm like, but you're giving pain to the plants too. I mean, just be kind while you do it. Be thankful that it's happening, and it shouldn't really matter what you're eating. It just eat it with good thoughts, good intentions, a good mind. I mean, it's not like this is anything new. Native Americans have been doing that for a long time. Use the entire entity to which you're consuming. If you're going to use that entity, use the entirety of that entity. The way we do shit right now, no, that is not cool. And I would say, yeah, be a vegan or a vegetarian in the system that we have going on right now, because we have no respect. They're like grown, they're not raised, and it's all bad. It's all bad. But again, what do your vibes do to another organism? This is what plants feel.
I'd been in the polygraph field full-time for 18 years. And this particular morning, I'd been working all night in the laboratory and had decided to water a plant in the lab, very similar to the plant here, Dracaena cane plant. My thought was that as the moisture arrived to the leaf of the plant, the plant should be a better conductor, and I should get a reading on the chart. Well, strangely enough, I didn't get this at all, and in fact, it did just the opposite. Instead of instead of the tracing edging upward as it should have on the chart, it went into sort of a wild excitation, very similar to the first part of a human taking a polygraph test. But then it occurred to me, just about 14 minutes along, what would be the real optimum threat to the well-being of a plant. In fact, the imagery of fire entered my mind, and I not only thought, but I fully intended to burn the very leaf that was being tested with a match. Now, I had no matches in the room at the time, and I don't smoke, and I had to go next door to my secretary's area to get a match. But the interesting thing is that right at the split second that imagery of fire entered my mind, the tracing reflecting the changes in the plant just went right off the top of the page. And the only thing that occurred at that time, no lighting of a match, nothing else, merely the imagery of fire. And I must say that as of 14 minutes along in that initial observation on the morning of February 2nd, 1966, my life just hasn't been the same.
Okay, so there's more. There's much more. That came from a documentary called The Secret Life of Plants. I think it's from like 1978. I think something like that. I mean, I like some obscure shit. I mean, you can find this on YouTube. It's out there. I mean, I would highly suggest go watching it. It's a wonderful piece of information. Like, the information that gives you right there shows a lot of fucking things about reality, and it has profound meanings, like very deep implications as to what's going on in reality existence. Anyway, that was from '78. Now, this experiment has also been recreated because, people want to know. Some people like me would like, hey, can we get this done in more professional setting again? I mean, why hasn't more research been done on this? Why is this being snuffed out? I would say it's being snuffed out, but some people would disagree. Whatever, I don't care. That doesn't matter. The thing that matters is the information's not out there. Why is the information not out there? Why would one have to go looking for this information? Why is this information not deemed information worthy enough to be presented to you, as they do in schools and other mainstream documentaries and things of that nature? Why is that not important? Because I think this is some pretty profoundly important shit. I mean, it's pretty fucking important shit. But yeah, as the second part 2 of this, what plants feel, comes from an episode of Mythbusters, one of my favorite shows. And some viewers wanted to know what was going on with plants. Yeah, primary perception, that's what Cleve Baxter, he came up with primary perception, so now they did an episode on primary perception, and yeah, that's what you're about to watch.
Okay, guys, plants have feelings. And as an emotional response to a threatening situation, they can even scream.
Is this a myth?
Yeah. Have you heard this one?
You know, I do remember there was a guy who took plants and hooked them up to a polygraph machine and did some tests.
Well, in fact, back in the late 60s and early 70s, he was a world polygraph expert. He developed this theory that plants, eggs, yogurt, all these things have a way of communicating on an emotional level that we don't even perceive or understand.
The concept of primary perception may be a little out there for some people. It means that all living organisms on Earth, from a whale, a human being, a plant, right down to a single cell, is interconnected, able to feel all sorts of emotions and to communicate with ESP. The theory was developed by the founder of the FBI's polygraph unit, Cleve Baxter.
I've been reading the experiments of Cleve Baxter. When he thought about burning the plant, the needle on the polygraph jumped, as if the plant could actually read his mind.
To put his theory to the test, the team is going to recreate some of his original experiments. First, to see if vegetation really does have feelings, they're going to get a plant, hook it up to a polygraph, subject it to physical and mental stress, and see if they get a reaction.
Grant, do you know how long we've wanted one of these?
Yes.
And I don't mean a box.
One genuine Stolting 22600.
Oh, I hear something rattling already.
The same model polygraph used in the, you guessed it, original Baxter experiments.
Oh, sweet. I saw Meet the Parents. I know how these things work.
Ever done time in prison, Jack?
When humans are in situations of stress, such as telling a lie to someone, the theory is there are often changes to their body. Their heart rate goes up and they sweat more. It's the GSR, or galvanic skin response component of the polygraph, that measures the amount of sweat. It does this by putting out a tiny electrical current that monitors any change in the skin's conductivity. Baxter took the GSR electrodes from the polygraph, attached them to a leaf, and said he could tap into the currents that flow into our green friends. Tori makes a special screw-on clamp to secure the electrode from the polygraph to the leaf of the Dracaena.
Don't worry, little buddy. We're not going to do anything mean to you. Yet.
No, dude.
Sorry, we're not supposed to freak it out?
No.
Okay.
To help block out any accidental electrical interference that could affect the polygraph, like a cell phone going off or a plane flying overhead, they're going to conduct the test inside a shipping container.
We'll take it into the container, which we know acts as a really good shield from radio frequency interference. The camera crew, everybody else, will be outside. So all that camera equipment's going to be out there recording us remotely.
Grant and Tori clear their minds
Let's go to our happy place.
and become one with nature.
There's definitely a little deflection there.
A little slap on the leaf caused the needle on the polygraph to move. Could it mean the plant is feeling fear and pain?
Plant's kind of twitching.
Because he knows what's coming.
To up the ouch factor, Tori pulls out the heavy artillery.
Whoa, huge spike.
The needle moved way more when the strength of the attack was increased.
Each time we hit the plant with the fire extinguisher, the needle pinned.
The boys are baffled, but move on to test if plants can read minds. This time, Tori's not going to touch the plant at all. He's just going to imagine hurting it.
Think about something specific to this plant, and I want you to really, you have to really intend to do it. Like, I am going to do this. I'm going to kick your butt.
Ready? Had a good baseline. I gave it a mental picture, picturing it burning on fire.
The needle jumps.
Are you serious? Stop. No way. Tori had a thought, and the plant reacted.
What the heck was that?
I don't know. Okay, you're not touching the plant, is that correct?
No, I'm not touching anything. All I'm doing is I'm staring it down and imagining it in flames.
Is the Dracaena tapping into Tori's consciousness and terrified of being burned?
Okay, that's it for today.
I mean, I'm not saying I believe this, but
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to dispute the ink.
Even engineer Grant, man of science, is taking off his skeptic cap.
If I were to say that it was a random occurrence, be some pretty amazing coincidences going on.
It boggles the mind!
Is that crazy talk? Am I fucking crazy? So, spooky action distance. Haven't proved it yet. Are you still a non-believer and be like, nah, fuck all that's, I mean, you could debunk each one of those things, and you can't put them together. They're all atomized, and they have no relation to each other or anything like that. You know, can't be real. I understand that. I understand that position. I wouldn't be surprised if people do take that position. It makes sense, because change and fear is a bitch. And one thing I'm doing in my challenge for you to think I'm crazy, in my craziness, I am attempting to rip down everything you know about reality. Existence. I'm just existence, doing what existence does. Can you fault me for it? So what's the conclusion here? I mean, what does all that mean? What's the point? I mean, great, spooky action at a distance. Spooky action at a distance. Everyone's got it. If everyone's got it, it means everything you're thinking, every intention that you have, what did the plant see? The plant read your intention. You intended to burn the plant. It didn't like that. It didn't like your intent. It didn't. So, if a plant can read intentions, What does that mean? Do you think I'm crazy? Because here's what I think it means. Human beings do the same thing. Science would tell you right now, it wasn't a piece of evidence in my argument here, but science would also tell you that every human being has something called a sympathetic or empathic neuron. These neurons fire when you're watching some action or, you know, something taking place of another human being, you know, somebody skiing on TV or, you know, somebody crying next door or on your shoulder or something like that. The same neurons that are firing in that person's brain while they're skiing or while they're crying or while they're in adulation for something, the same neurons that are firing in their brain fire in your brain too, in the same areas. So it's as if you were doing the same thing that other piece of existence is doing as well. Do you know what that means? So this is the basis for empaths. If we're all empathic as humans, a human being, a human species, and I wouldn't say just human beings either, I would say other different creatures, and it's how well you can be empathic with another creature has direct correlation to how well you're able to communicate with that other entity. But whatever, that's other parts of my crazy. In this particular aspect of my crazy, if we're all empaths, and all human beings are different, but yet the same, so all human beings are empaths, but we're all empaths to varying degrees. This is what you would call, once the varying degree shifts in one direction to past a certain point, you would call that person an empath, because they seem to be more empathic than your everyday person. But everybody's an empath. We just choose to label that person an empath because they're a little bit more sensitive than your next day person. Some of us are much more sensitive to the intentions of others. Some of us feel them. Empaths, the varying degrees of empaths, on the more sensitive side of empathy, they've been labeled psychic sponges. Do you understand why? Because of what I just showed you in my exhibits for my argument. Spooky action at a distance. They are receptive. They absorb all the shit you're giving off. Everything, the good and the bad. I just thought this is some information that some people might want to know. You know, some people might be curious about what's going on in reality. I mean, like really going on, the shit they don't teach you in school. I mean, this is the shit they don't teach you in school, but in my opinion, should absolutely be teaching you in school. This is important shit, like fundamental to existence type shit. But hey, you know, we all have our different priorities and whatnot. And right now we're living in a system with different priorities. One of my goals here is to bring to light some of these priorities and bring to light some other possible priorities to which we could have if we so desired. Am I crazy? I guess you'll just have to figure that out. Yeah. Bye.